Welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started in a minute here as folks are joining. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks to those of you who are joining the LymeX Diagnostics Prize webinar. We are going to begin in another minute. Thanks so much for joining. I'm seeing folks trickle in. We'll give another few seconds before we get started. All right, we are at 1 o'clock Eastern. Thank you all so much for being here today. Welcome to the LymeX Diagnostics Prize Phase 1 virtual information session. Thanks all for being here. We're so excited to tell you more about this landmark competition and field as many of your questions as we can before our hour together is up. A couple of housekeeping notes as we get started. The session is being recorded. The recording and the slides will be posted on the competition website. If you have questions throughout the session, please submit them using the Q&A feature found at the bottom of your Zoom webinar window. We'll get to as many questions as we can, either live or through a written response during our hour together. And we will also be publishing additional FAQs along with the webinar recording to the website at a later date. I'm going to start off with some brief introductions. If we can go to the next slide, please. I'm going to turn it first over to Kristen Honey.
Thanks everyone for joining. I'm Dr. Kristen Honey with Health and Human Services headquarters here in Washington, D.C. And I'm with the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health, where I'm the Chief Data Scientist and Executive Director of our innovation portfolio, which includes the LymeX Public-Private Partnership.
Thanks, Kristen. I'll turn it next to Ben Nemzer.
Hi, I'm Ben Nemzer from the Stephen and Alexandra Cohen Foundation.
Thanks, Ben. And I'm Shivani Bhatia. I'm a senior associate at Luminary Labs. We are a strategy and innovation consultancy in New York City. We're designing and administering the competition on behalf of LymeX in partnership with NASA's Center for Excellence for Collaborative Innovation. I'm leading our LymeX team here, and I will be your presenter today. So I would like to actually start us off with a very brief poll just to get to know all of you a little bit before we dive right into our agenda. So if I can ask our poll expert to bring up our poll, I wanted to ask everyone, what is your field of expertise and what brings you here today? What is your interest in the LymeX Diagnostics Prize? Just take 30 seconds or so to answer this question. Just your field of expertise and what brings you here today. I'm excited to see some of these answers coming through. Thank you so much. Wonderful. A lot of folks in diagnostics and biotechnology here today, a couple of clinicians, a couple of patient caregiver advocacy. Excited to see this flowing in. We'll give it maybe another few seconds before we close this poll. All right, thanks everyone. I'm really excited to see this participation here today. Thank you so much to you in the other category. Excited to hear a little bit more about where you all are coming from, but thank you. Can go ahead and share those results and close the poll. Thank you. All right, we are going to begin today's session with an overview of Lyme disease and the unique diagnostics problem that we are aiming to solve with this prize competition. And then we will follow that with some important details about the competition structure, goals, prizes, requirements, and how submissions will be evaluated. I'm going to flip us to the next slide, please. So I'm going to start us off with some important context for the competition, starting with a few facts about the growing health threat that brings us all here today, which is Lyme disease. So as you might know, Lyme disease is the most common vector-borne disease in the United States, and the more we learn about this problem, the bigger it seems to be. An estimated 476,000 Americans are diagnosed and treated for Lyme disease each year, but the true number of infections is unknown. Some research out actually just this week suggests that even 14% of the global population may have had Lyme disease. So we're just learning more and more about this and understanding the scale of this problem. Since 1995, reported cases have actually tripled as climate change increases the geographic and seasonal distribution of ticks across the United States. Ecological transformations, like the loss of natural deer predators, have also likewise allowed infected ticks to thrive in suburban habitats. Lyme disease symptoms can vary from patient to patient, and we know that early diagnosis is critical. If left untreated, the debilitating disease can become harder to eradicate and can spread throughout the body. But the bacterium that causes Lyme disease can be incredibly difficult to detect. Clinicians often rely on a characteristic bullseye skin rash, but we also know that up to 30% of patients will never present with a rash. And research suggests that medical staff may disproportionately miss it on patients of color. Lyme disease is clearly a growing threat to Americans' health, but the Lyme ecosystem is not just sitting idle. I'm excited to turn it over to Kristen Honey to tell us a little bit more about how LymeX is leading the charge here. Kristen.
Thanks so much, Shivani. So HHS, Health and Human Services, and the Stephen and Alexander Cohen Foundation launched the LymeX partnership in 2020. We were building on over 5 years of community-led momentum and community-led efforts with Lyme innovation. With this $25 million public-private partnership, LymeX is the largest kind of effort in the world. We are in the first stage of the LymeX partnership work, and we have the very first steps. We're listening and learning from all of you, recognizing the wisdom of the crowd and the power of community from the years of Lyme innovation momentum. So last year, we used human-centered design methods to identify common challenges in patient, caregiver, and healthcare provider experiences. When you develop and implement innovative advancements in disease care centered on the patient, you build a strong foundation for lasting and meaningful change. We documented this snapshot in time in our recently published LymeX Health Plus Human-Centered Design Report that you can find on our HHS website. Our LymeX partnership kicked off the second main component of LymeX, focused on innovative health education and awareness to shine a light on tick-borne disease prevention using open innovation methods. This has included a LymeX Education and Awareness Healthathon Challenge hosted on challenge.gov. This challenge was designed to encourage and reward the creation of education materials like social media content, education or training videos, graphics, posters, and wherever creativity took the community. The goal was to raise awareness of Lyme disease signs and symptoms, ticks, and how to prevent tick bites, and what to do if you have been bitten, and other important topics. We had winners that you can find on our lymex.crowdicity.com site and learn more about on challenge.gov. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ben to share more about our third leg of the LymeX stool, which is the crucial need for diagnostic innovation for Lyme disease.
Thanks, Kristen. Here at the Stephen and Alexander Cohen Foundation, we're the largest private funder of Lyme and tick-borne disease research in the US. And we certainly know how much hard work has been done by the researchers, clinicians, and wider Lyme community to help us better understand Lyme disease's pathogenesis. And still, there have been no major breakthroughs in Lyme disease diagnostics over the last 25 years. Lyme diagnosis today still utilizes the CDC recommended two-tier antibody testing algorithm. The system was originally implemented in 1994 for disease surveillance, not necessarily as a standalone diagnostic test. These serological tests rely on the presence of antibodies, meaning that they can only be used accurately 4 to 6 weeks after infection. They miss up to 60% of early stage cases, meaning we cannot reliably diagnose Lyme disease at the point when treatments are most effective. As a geographic range of vectors expands, we more urgently need reliable tests that can detect active infection and accessible tests that have been reviewed and cleared by the FDA. Better diagnostics yield better information, which yields better decisions and responses. The last couple of years have certainly reinforced the importance of diagnostics in managing threats to human health, and we believe that the same speed and effectiveness of diagnostic innovation must be applied to Lyme disease. I'll turn it back to Shivani to share a little bit more about how we hope to catalyze that innovation through the LymeX Diagnostics Prize.
Thank you so much, Ben. Given the nature and urgency of the diagnostic challenge in Lyme disease, I want to share a little bit about why we launched this prize competition before we dive into the details. So just a bit first about prize competitions for anyone who's not familiar with prize competitions. I want to share a little bit about how this innovation methodology complements and looks different from more traditional funding mechanisms that like grants or contracts, and why LymeX has taken this approach to catalyze diagnostic innovation. So we know that many recent advances in diagnostic and related technologies offer high potential to solve this wicked problem of detecting Lyme disease causing bacteria. But translating these advances into actual diagnostic tests requires ideation, development, validation, approval, and market implementation, which is enabled by progressive levels of funding. So while grants and contracts often prescribe the desired solution or development pathway, we believe that a wide range of ideas and technologies could solve this problem, including identification of new biomarkers, imaging techniques, emerging genomic techniques, even other approaches that we may not know about yet. Prizes allow us to be open to this wide array of solution types and novel collaborations across traditional silos. Traditional mechanisms are often awarded to institutions or organizations to execute specific or predefined activities that are already agreed upon, and they must remain the same over the life of a grant or contract. But prizes, on the other hand, can be awarded to a range of individuals, teams, or entities who meet the defined eligibility requirements. And prizes are awarded based on outcomes against clearly defined criteria. Prizes can also accelerate longer-term development by providing winners with flexible funding and non-monetary support, like access to facilities or technical assistance. So given all of this context, our goal in phase 1 of this competition and beyond is to nurture the development of more accurate and accessible next-generation Lyme disease diagnostics, and importantly, advance their progress towards formal review and clearance by the FDA. We hope to see a wide range of approaches and collaborations, provided that they meet the criteria I'll speak to in a moment, and that they advance our goal for next-gen Lyme disease diagnostics. So with that context in mind, we'll switch to the next slide, please. Thanks. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the competition itself. And just a quick reminder to please submit any questions via the Q&A function on Zoom. We'll answer all questions in the second half of the webinar. So to touch a little bit on the competition structure, we are currently in phase 1 of the LymeX Diagnostics Prize, which seeks paper concepts and plans for future development. This phase is open to all entrants who meet award eligibility requirements that I'll speak to a little bit later in our session together. We plan to launch a second phase and potentially additional phases beyond that, which will be open exclusively to winners of phase 1. These phases are designed to advance and accelerate concepts through development, prototyping, validation, and preparing for regulatory submissions and future commercialization. Speeding development through this competition relies on both monetary and non-monetary incentives for participation. In phase 1, we have a $1 million prize pool that will be shared by up to 10 winners. Again, these winners also receive the exclusive ability to advance to the next competition phase. We anticipate that the subsequent phases will offer an additional $9 million in cash prizes subject to availability of funding. In addition, they will be offered specialized technical assistance and other forms of development support, which will enable teams to participate in speeding development beyond what is currently seen as possible. We're excited to share more about potential future phases in the weeks and months ahead, so please stay tuned. Get into our timeline together. So what we're looking at right now, submissions opened on May 17th. Today is our virtual information session. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We are planning to host an additional webinar in July, which will be focused on the technical considerations. So please keep an eye out for that and sign up for our newsletter to be notified of when that date is announced. All submissions must be submitted by Monday, August 8th, 2022 at 4:59 Eastern Time. We'll get into a little bit more about that later. Judging will take place in September, and we anticipate announcing winners by October 2022. Future phases will be announced by the end of the year. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, phase 1 calls for concept papers that describe the proposed test or tests in detail, should give a well-supported rationale for why the test will be successful, and it should summarize the plan for development and validation over the next few years. These submissions should also clearly address how you plan to prepare for near-term submission of developed tests to the FDA for review and regulatory clearance. If you're interested, you can view the complete submission form and all instructions on the competition website, but I will also walk through the major areas to address in the concept papers right now. So the 10-page concept paper should address 6 key topics. First is the concept summary. This is an overview of the proof of concept and development plan. It should include a description of the proposed diagnostic test or tests and how that would advance innovation in Lyme disease diagnostics. Next is the solution description, which is a summary of why the proposed test will accurately diagnose an active infection of Lyme disease. That should include scientific rationale, initial validation data if available, and that should indicate the expected level of performance with a focus on sensitivity and specificity of the proposed diagnostic test or tests. The third is a description of use. That should include a summary of how the proposed diagnostic tests would be used to impact and improve clinical outcomes and patient quality of life, as well as any population level data of Lyme disease prevalence. Next is past progress and current status. That should include a summary of current development status and a description of any past progress, including initial data and how clinician and patient input has informed the design and initial development process, as well as any past funding and how that funding has been used to advance development to date. The summary should also include a description of any prior interactions with the FDA regarding the proposed solution, including any copies of correspondence between the participant and the FDA. Next is the development plan. This plan is a roadmap for prototyping, iteration, testing and validation, and evaluation in future phases of the competition and beyond. That should include a forward-looking budget and timeline, a description of relevant technical challenges in the field of Lyme disease diagnostics, and also a summary of how clinician and patient input will continue to inform the development process. Development plans in particular should consider the longer-term goals of the LymeX Diagnostics Prize, as we talked about. And finally, the concept paper should include a team description, which is a description of the team, including any areas of expertise, any anticipated gaps, or additional partnerships that would be required to develop the solution. It should also include a summary of any experience or success developing analogous solutions. Again, this is just a summary, so please make sure you carefully read all information presented on the competition website about what we're looking for and requirements for submissions and concept papers. On the website, which will be linked a number of times in the chat throughout this deck, if you click submit at the upper right of the competition homepage, you would be able to register for the competition platform, as well as view the submission form and detailed instructions in their entirety. Please note that you can also edit and save progress on your submission via this platform before you formally submit. All right. And again, a reminder, please ask any questions via the Q&A function. We will get to all questions towards the end of our webinar together. So I'm going to walk through the 7 equally weighted evaluation criteria that will be used to evaluate all submissions. I'm going to share complete descriptions and definitions here, but these are also posted on the competition website if you would like to read along or revisit this at a later date. First is performance. This is the degree to which the entrant demonstrates that a solution can or will accurately diagnose an active Lyme disease infection. This includes the credibility of explanation, as well as the level of expected performance with regard to specificity and sensitivity with data to support. Second is technical maturity. Technical maturity is the degree to which the solution has been developed with a rigorous scientific rationale, grounded in credible existing research, preliminary testing, or other relevant forms of validation. This should include demonstrating an understanding of Lyme disease diagnostics and offering a credible explanation for how the solution overcomes known technical challenges in the field. Next is clinical impact. This is the potential for the solution to integrate into new or existing clinical protocols and maintain performance across a range of patient populations. This should also include a well-developed plan to engage clinical and patient stakeholders. Next is population impact. This is the the potential for the solution to improve population health, including its proposed or demonstrated accessibility, the extent to which entrants address equity in the design and implementation plans, and the opportunity for public health impact through improved data and surveillance. Next up is viability. This is the extent to which the entrant outlines an aggressive yet achievable development process, including a detailed development plan for prototyping, iteration, testing and validation, and evaluation of the diagnostic test or tests in future phases of the competition and/or beyond, including a consideration of potential risks or unintended consequences. Next up is sustainability. This is the degree to which the entrant demonstrates scalability potential and provides a credible long-term plan for regulatory viability, market entry, business need, and the development of the test as a real-world product. And finally, our last step is innovation. This is the novelty and uniqueness of the solution, as well as its potential to advance the field of Lyme disease diagnostics and treatment as a whole, including opportunities to advance scientific understanding of Lyme disease spirochetes through contributions to the existing evidence base. So how will these submissions be evaluated? Submissions will be evaluated by a panel of judges with expertise in Lyme disease, diagnostic development, regulatory navigation, patient and clinician experience, and more. When evaluating submissions, the judging panel will assign each submission a score of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. These points for each of 7 criteria for a maximum of 35 points across the 7 criteria. The judging panel will recommend up to 10 phase 1 winners based on these official evaluation criteria. And we'll be sharing information about the judging panel soon on the competition website. Depending on the volume of entries that we receive, submissions may initially be evaluated by a multidisciplinary group of technical reviewers. So we offer a number of different resources to potential entrants. These are all listed on the competition website, and I encourage you to take a look there. These include resources on Lyme disease fundamentals, patient-centered design, diagnostics and medical technology development, as well as regulatory navigation and commercialization. We also offer an opportunity for anyone interested to join the entrant community. This is a really exciting collaborative opportunity for potential entrants to meet each other virtually, identify any opportunities for collaboration and teaming, and understand the field a little bit more. All right, so the exciting part here, now that we've shared a bit about the structure of the LymeX Diagnostics Prize, let's actually talk about entering the competition. So again, thanks to everyone who's already submitted questions via the Q&A function. Please continue to submit any questions you might have, and we'll answer them shortly. So the LymeX Diagnostics Prize is open to submission from individuals, teams, and entities. I'm going to talk through each of them briefly, but please refer to the competition website for a detailed description of prize eligibility requirements. So first up, an individual may register and submit on behalf of themselves on the competition website. The individual must be a US citizen or permanent resident, and any prize would be awarded to the individual. With a team, a selected team lead would register on behalf of the team on the competition website. The team lead must be a US citizen or permanent resident, and any prize would be awarded to that team lead on behalf of the team. With an entity, a selected point of contact would register on behalf of the entity, which must be incorporated or maintain a primary place of business in the United States. Any prize would be awarded to this entity. We encourage all international entrants to participate in collaboration with a US-based collaborator. If you're interested in connecting with other potential entrants, please join the entrant community that I mentioned on the resources page of our website to join up with a US-based collaborator. Next up, we often get questions about intellectual property. Entering the competition means granting Health and Human Services and the Cohen Foundation license to reproduce, publish, post, link to, share, and display abstracts and non-proprietary submission content only. Entrants to the competition retain all other intellectual property rights in their solutions as applicable and will not be required to transfer intellectual property rights. So in that context and overview, we encourage you to enter the LymeX Diagnostics Prize. You can start a submission by registering your team on the website. From there, please feel free to read additional details, explore our resources, join the entrant community. Remember to complete your submission form and upload a concept paper. All submissions must be received by 4:59 Eastern on Monday, August 8th, 2022. We have reached the Q&A portion of today's session. So again, thanks to anyone who's submitted questions already. Please input any questions in the Q&A box. We're going to get to as many questions as we can in our time together, and we will also post answers to questions that we received today, as well as other frequently asked questions to the competition website soon. All right. Okay, so one of the questions that we've received a number of times is my something or other fill in the blank in the scope of this competition? Is there a preference for a specific kind of test? So in running a prize competition, we very intentionally do not prescribe a particular approach, as I mentioned in the kind of first part of why we're running a prize competition. We hope to see a wide range of technologies, analytes, sample types, et cetera, and we hope to accelerate a really diverse set of promising concepts in the next competition phase and beyond. So what matters here is that you demonstrate how your concept meets the goal of the competition, which is developing next-gen diagnostics that can accurately detect active Lyme disease infections in people and address all of the requirements noted in the submission form. So showing and demonstrating how your concept delivers on the evaluation criteria that I mentioned. So again, this is really about the end goal here of developing next-gen diagnostics that can accurately detect an active Lyme disease infection. And of course, out of fairness to all potential entrants, we can't address inquiries about specific concepts or proposals. We've received another question from a couple of people. Are you looking for lab-developed, point-of-care, or at-home tests? Again, we're really open to a wide range of diagnostic approaches, provided that they meet the competition goals and criteria. As noted, our criteria balance multiple considerations, which include the performance of the test or tests and the potential for clinical and patient impact. We anticipate that many of the concepts that meet our goals and criteria will be point-of-care tests, but we welcome and hope to see other competitive concepts designed for other settings and use cases. Please note that successful submissions will also show a clear and credible pathway to FDA review and clearance. This is not just lab-developed tests operating under a CLIA waiver or other certification. FDA review assesses the clinical validity performance of tests in a way that the CLIA system does not. So this is crucial to future scaling and accessibility of tests developed. And we can drop a link to some of the CMS regulations and guidance around this difference. The next question that we got is, are team descriptions or references included in this 10-page concept paper? And this is a great question, thanks for asking it. To clarify, references are not counted as part of the 10-page concept paper limit. They may be included if clearly delineated in an appendix. Please be aware that any links that you provide should not be used to bypass the page limit. Content linked outside of the concept paper itself will not be considered a description of your technical approach by evaluators. Next question we got is, how long is the phase 1 project period? To clarify again, the LymeX Diagnostics Prize is a prize competition. It is not a grant. So as such, there's not a specified phase 1 project period, the way that there typically is with a grant. Submissions should address the required topics referenced earlier relative to your concept and future development plans, but the prize is not funding specific development activities over a defined period, as a grant often does. It's just a reminder, the deadline for submitting all phase 1 concept papers is August 8th, 2022 at 4:59 p.m. Eastern time. A question that we often get is, if I am a non-US entrant or entity, how can I participate? Any non-US citizens and non-permanent residents can participate as a member of a team whose team lead satisfies the eligibility criteria as mentioned. Please note that only one prize payment will be issued to each winning individual, team lead, or primary entity on the submission. So any subsequent distribution of prize funds to other team members or entities is at the prize recipient's discretion, is not the responsibility of HHS or the Cohen Foundation. Next question that we got is, can solutions already developed on a federal contract or grant be submitted? This is also a great question. An otherwise eligible entrant or team is not ineligible because they received federal funds in the past. However, federal grantees may not use federal funds to develop their competition submissions unless the use of such funds is consistent with the purpose of their grant award or cooperative agreement. Federal grantees who use federal funds to develop their competition submissions must also obtain written prior approval from the appropriate grants management or program officer. Federal contractors may not use federal funds from a contract to develop their competition submissions or to fund efforts in support of their competition submissions. Next up, we got a question about, is each winner guaranteed $100,000 and/or what's the budget limit for this grant? Again, this is not a grant, but up to 10 winners will receive an equal share of the $1 million prize pool for phase 1. So that means that phase 1 winners can expect a minimum of $100,000 award depending on the number of winners named. Note that as this is a prize competition and not a grant, awards will not be based on any budgets that are included in the submission. The prize is a fixed cash award amount paid to each winning individual entrant, team lead, or lead entity. The next question that we received is, if we are a team, how will prize funds be distributed to team members? Prizes will be awarded by HHS and they'll be issued in a single electronic payment to the individual team lead or lead entity indicated on the submission, as mentioned. Any further distribution of funds to team members is at each team lead's discretion. It's not the responsibility of HHS or the Cohen Foundation. Finally, what activities can prize funds be used for? So prize competitions, as we mentioned, by design, do not place any restrictions on how award funds are to be used. So awardees are responsible, therefore, for any applicable federal, state, and/or local taxes and reporting requirements related to their prize. Note that if you are using federal grant funds, so consistent with the purpose of your award or agreement to develop your submission, you will likely need to treat the prize as program income for the purposes of the original grant and should consult with your relevant grants management or program officers prior to submitting. We got a question about how LymeX is going to address confidentiality of the submitted applications. Competition maintains confidentiality of any confidential commercial or financial information that you submit. Please note that entrants must clearly delineate any confidential information contained in a submission that the participant wishes to protect as proprietary. Reviewers and judges would be required also to sign non-disclosure agreements as part of that process. We've had a couple of questions regarding the fidelity that we're seeking in phase 1. That sounds like maybe this is geared to tests that are already under development. What if it's just an idea? Are ideas of interest? Submissions do not necessarily need to be an existing test. In fact, we're really hoping to accelerate highly innovative concepts that will transform the field of Lyme disease diagnostics. A reminder that phase 1 is seeking detailed concepts and plans for development that address how you plan to further develop your tests and to prepare for regulatory submission, as we discussed. All right, we still have a couple of questions coming through here, so please feel free to keep using the Q&A function to drop any additional questions into our chat. We have a bit of time left together, so we'll keep taking questions as they're coming in. And as we continue on, we will also post any FAQ documents to the website, as well as a recording of this webinar. So please keep an eye out there. I saw a question come in about LymeX a little bit more broadly. So how does the LymeX Diagnostics Prize differ or complement other LymeX initiatives? I would love to hear actually from both Kristen and Ben about this. So Kristen, I'm wondering if we can start with you. How does LymeX Diagnostics Prize differ from or complement other LymeX initiatives?
Excellent, thanks so much. It's complementary in that we have 3 LymeX focus areas. So one, education prevention, a second one, patient-centered innovation and the human-centered design, so innovating with patients at the center of the process. And then the last one is the Diagnostics Prize. So in those three areas, we've done other competitions that you can find on challenge.gov, which were around education and prevention and crowdsourcing education materials. So we think of them as like three parallel tracks, all running at the same time. Stakeholder engagement, patient-centered innovation, identifying and lifting solutions that are from the front lines of living with Lyme disease from patients, caregivers, frontline clinicians. Then the second track, it's all this education prevention work that we're doing, trying to come at that in an orthogonal way. So it's crowdsourcing citizen science, and again, harnessing the power of the crowd to improve Lyme disease awareness and education prevention. And then the third track, parallel track, is this LymeX Diagnostics Prize.
Thanks, Kristen. Ben, anything to add?
No, that's a pretty good summary. I mean, just in general, the LymeX Diagnostic Prize competition is going to be a huge focus for us over the next couple of years. So I think that sort of third track that Kristen's saying is going to be like our big push in the next couple of years, and we're glad to get started.
Thank you both. I saw a question come through that is similar to kind of the parallel to the question that we got before around fidelity. Question is, what if a novel diagnostic solution is already validated prior to the August 8th submission deadline with data and or a pathway to FDA de novo submission prior to the phase 1 winner announcement? Are they still eligible? Is there an accelerated path to phase 2? So this is pretty similar to the answer from before. If you believe that you exceed certain criteria, we still encourage you to submit. Potential future phases of the competition, if launched, may provide significant additional monetary prizes as well as non-monetary resources. So that would include technical assistance, access to mentors, facilities to develop tests further, to validate and prepare them for market entry and commercialization. Another question that we got is, can I enter more than one submission? We can only accept one submission per individual or lead entrant as registered on the competition platform. What we found is that the most successful solvers in this type of competition really focus their energy on a single high quality submission rather than attempting to enter multiple ideas or variations. Thanks all for these questions. These are really excellent questions and really appreciate the ongoing dialogue here. Let me check our question and answer box. Reminder to keep using that Q&A function to submit any questions. We'll keep posting answers as we're getting them through. And if there's any clarification that you need as we're walking through these questions and answers, please feel free to ask. All right, so we've been receiving some questions about specific data points or scientific characteristics of Lyme disease, performance metrics, things that we're looking for specifically. So of course, we can't address all of these directly, given the variability in solutions that we expect and that we're hoping to receive, but we do have the resources that I mentioned on our website. So please consult those. Also, there's a section on that website. If you have additional resources that you believe would be helpful, please feel free to send them our way. The email address is listed on the website, and we will do our best to continue to add to that general resource bank over the course of the submissions process and phase 1. All right, as we're waiting for a few other questions to come through, I would actually like to ask one last poll question here. If we could have our poll kind of pull up. I would like to ask folks on the call, how do you anticipate engaging with the LymeX Diagnostics Prize? If you could pull up, thank you, pull up that question. We'll give about 30 seconds or so for folks to answer this. Thanks, excited to see these come through already. We'll give another 15 or so seconds for folks to answer. Seeing a couple of chats come through also. Take the last couple of seconds before we close the poll. All right, I think we can go ahead and end and show the poll. I'm really excited to see so many folks interested in and intending to submit a concept paper or looking to join an existing team. Thank you so much, we're thrilled. For those folks who are not yet sure, please feel free to chat or drop in the Q&A additional questions that might help you make that decision. And any folks with if you want to chat or leave in the Q&A what you're thinking about, how you anticipate engaging with the LymeX Diagnostics Prize, we'd be really excited to hear, as well as any additional resources that might be helpful as you're thinking about putting together a concept paper. Thanks, we can close that poll. Thanks so much. Let me turn back to our question and answers here. So there's a couple of questions, I believe, about the scope of the proposal or structure or focus. Again, you can find all of the detailed submissions instructions on the competition website. We can drop the link into the chat again. But you can also come back to this webinar recording once it's posted if you'd like to listen through again, review the FAQ document, and take a look through that registration option. So on the website, if you click the top right button, it says submit. You will have the opportunity to register your team there to start a submission that gives the full instructions of what we're looking for, as well as the full of complete descriptions of everything. And so you can take a look there and be able to come back and edit your submission as you're working on that before August 8th. We got a question about any funds that will be available in future phases. As we mentioned, this is subject to the availability of future funding. So we'll be announcing more details about future phases over the coming weeks and months. So please keep an eye out. Please feel free to sign up for our newsletter if you'd like to be the first to hear about that as it's announced. And any future information will be communicated via that newsletter, and we can drop that link into the chat as well. We got a question about I know this is not a grant, but since it's awarded through HHS, can the awarded institution take the standard 50 to 60% indirects? This is not something we have a blanket answer to, would be a discussion between the applicant and their institution. We got a question about, can the prize be used to contract a foreign expert? Like we mentioned, there are no explicit restrictions on the use of prize funds from the competition. You can consult local policies that may be relevant to your institution or entity. Please take a look there. There's a question about, are we only interested in active infection or improving diagnosis in general? I'm going to refer back to what we talked about as the overall goal of phase one of this competition. What matters here is that you demonstrate how your concept meets the goal of the competition, developing next-gen diagnostics that can accurately detect active Lyme disease infections in people, and that you address all of the requirements noted in the submission form. So that would show how your concept delivers on the evaluation criteria that we previously referenced. Take another look here at our questions. I think we're slowing down. Are we getting most of these questions in? All right, I think we have made it through our question and answers. Check with our team here. Are there any additional that I've missed? Yeah, there's another one coming through here. Okay, great. So there was a question about phase one is submitting a concept paper that winners will be awarded for their idea. So this goal is what we're asking for in the submission is this concept paper, and the main point here is, again, you can walk through those evaluation criteria, is how well does your concept paper meet the goal of this competition, and address all of the requirements noted in the submission form, as well as those evaluation criteria that we walked through. So that includes the sensitivity and specificity, any additional data that you might have. Again, please refer back to the evaluation criteria that we discussed, and that are posted on the website. All right, a couple of other questions about registering as a collaborator, but how do we collaborate? Are there going to be events to establish collaboration or a list of potential collaborators that we can cold contact? So we encourage folks to join the entrant community on the website, as mentioned in our resources page. This is really up to potential entrants to use how they would like to and to engage with how they would like to. So it will be an open mailing list for anyone who's interested to join. It's an opportunity for potential entrants to make connections across, share information, find folks to team up with, to collaborate with. We encourage you to sign up for that and make the most out of it, make what you will out of it. That link again is on our resources page on the website, and we're happy to disseminate that also by newsletter, and encourage folks to use that collaboration widely. All right, I think we have made it through most of the questions that we've received. Any additional questions coming? I think we got a question about, an entity submission. Should I register using the name of the entity? So yes, again, with eligibility criteria, either an individual, a team, and or an entity is eligible to enter. For an entity, the point of contact should register and identify the entity that they're representing. So they should register that on the website on our submission page, as we mentioned. An entity is the selected point of contact would register on behalf of the entity. That entity must be incorporated and maintain a primary place of business in the United States, and the prize would be awarded to the entity in the case of an award. All right. Okay, I think that is most of the questions that we have received today. I'm going to encourage folks to continue asking questions via the Q&A. We'll keep populating it. And any questions that we receive that we are not able to answer today, we will be addressing on the website via an FAQ document. So please keep an eye out for that. Again, sign up for our newsletter if you would like to be the first to know additional information, if you'd like to receive the recording of this webinar and be notified when that FAQ document is posted. Okay. So I think we are at the end of our Q&A portion. I'm not seeing any additional questions come through. So I would like to thank all of you again for joining us today. And we hope that the webinar has been informative. We hope that it's inspired you to contribute your expertise to this incredibly important competition. If you're interested in entering, again, please register your team on the competition platform. If you'd like to help us get the word out about this competition, we would absolutely appreciate the support. This is such a crucial need, and we want to spread this far and wide and ensure that as many folks as are able to join and submit their innovative concepts to this prize competition. We've prepared some sample social media posts and communications materials to make it easy for you to share. So please feel free to sign up for the newsletter there or email us at hello@LymeXDiagnosticsPrize.com. for that information. As well, if you have any questions, if you need any technical support, you can always reach out to the competition team at that email address, hello@LymeXDiagnosticsPrize.com. And the best way to stay on top of any competition news is to sign up for our newsletter. If you're on that newsletter, you will also be among the first to hear about our next webinar, which will be coming in early July. We'll be joined by some experts and partners from the extended LymeX team to talk a bit about some of the important technical considerations for entrants as they are preparing their submissions for our August 8th deadline. Again, I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. This was a really incredible conversation. Appreciate all of the questions. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you in the entrant community and on our newsletter and website. Thank you so much.